Because, by the way, George, what's his name? George Bridges. He is on their side. As far as I can, like, from the outside, he's 100% on their side. They're just very angry, so he doesn't get a chance to speak, and he's not, moving fast enough for them or whatever, but he is on their side. It almost seems like an intentional cultivation of there was civil war. I don't know.
If you look at, I'm going to bring up Chaz.
Yes.
Or they want to be called CHOP now, Capitol Hill Operational Pejorative. I don't know. But
I think it's occupied something. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Province?
Who knows?
Okay, so I have friends that have gone up there and have given me a more holistic view of the place as kind of rather communal and not necessarily an evil thing that you can see if you just selectively look at clips. So I'm just going to give that as a disclaimer. This is just one person with a microphone at Chaz, and he's saying it's not Chaz, it's CHOP. And remember the French Revolution, and remember what they did to people who don't agree with them? Chop, chop, chop. So that discourse, that level of language, even if it's crowdsourced to the loudest person getting the mic, that there's still people chanting on it. It should be to some degree, and I want to be, it's hard to be nuanced. It's hard to say, okay, this is symbolic, but at the same time, it's not. And we've entered into this morally righteous cause that justifies everything that aims in one direction, which would be the equalization of the human race to all one level playing field in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the banks, in the eyes of every given rubric. They want equality. So anything that goes in that direction is acceptable because it's furthering that cause. But at the same time, if you see what happened at Evergreen, and Brett Weinstein has said this much more eloquently than I can, it's that you can't really tell apart the narcissists and the sociopaths from the true believers in actual justice. Yes. You can't really tell them apart until this magic line occurs where the oppressor becomes the victim, and the way that they treat that victimized oppressor, right? And it reduces everybody to either a victim or an oppressor, and then victimizes the oppressor and oppresses the victim. They swap it out at that magic moment, and at that magic moment, you can see people for who they really are. And you can see the struggle sessions. I don't know how they do it at the knitting circle, if they all get their little needles and start like rubbing them together. At Evergreen, it was the snapping, but there's that weird pitch where things become a hair's breadth away from
So the French, I saw that clip where they're all chanting "chop, chop," like chop their heads off. I had just watched a documentary on the French Revolution, and most SJWs that I know are not students of history. They're not learning history. And in fact, this ideology is said history is white supremacist. There's no reason to learn it. I just watched this documentary, and I don't think they realize, this gets to my point about like joining the mob doesn't help you. They are still going to chop your head off. Robespierre, he was the architect of the terror, where all of these people who were pushing the guillotine ended up at the guillotine. Like, they came for him.
There's this, it's like a shockwave of bloodlust, and it will eat everything that's in its path, even that which is purporting to serve its cause. It will eat up until it expends itself. So once it goes critical, it just has to run itself out, and it will devour itself in the end, because it's madness. It is no longer based on principles that root one in critical thinking, and it's not just the emotion. And that's the weird thing. There's this string of arguments that are very tenuous, very complicated, like you were bringing up. They're laundered through the academy that hide the fact that this thing is. It's summoning some really deep dark forces, and you can think of it as a kind of a metaphysical force, and if you think about biblical terminologies, powers and principalities, there's something proto-human about it that will devour every human that it's made out of, and I think that in my investigations of this, I've always wondered, and I moved away from the race story because it felt too boxed in and too fraught for me to always be engaged in. And I went over to investigating the transgender issue and contacted transgender individuals who don't go along with this trans rights activism kind of glob that's constantly enforcing a certain way of behaving online. And I'm just trying to investigate what makes somebody immune to that. What are the qualities that cause somebody to be immune to that? What are some of the steps that somebody goes through to get out of that, and to resist it in the first place? Those are the real questions, right? So we can spend all day, and we reach this point as an internet subculture of anti-SJW product content creators. We can spend all day critiquing it and commiserating how awful it is, but you really have to understand, why is it attractive to people, and how do you convince them not to go down there? Like, those are the questions.